All right. Good afternoon, everybody. All right, so just a quick thing before we get started, we do have a new camera system and a microphone system. So if we can keep the chatter in the audience to a bare minimum, so the people that are watching the live stream can hear. I think it worked pretty good in our DSS meeting, so I think that might be a better alternative than our microphones. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. It is 6:05. And if everybody can please go ahead and silence their mobile devices. And Jeff, if I can get you to lead us in the invocation tonight.
Okay. Let's pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we come tonight with saddened hearts, with the loss of a young person's life this past week. Father, I ask that you be with the family and the friends, give them comfort, touch them as they grieve, and give them hope for the future, Father. Because we realize, even with this tragedy, you are in control of everything. As this commission board meets tonight, Father, I ask that you be with us, that you guide us, that you lead us in our decision-making process. I thank you, Father, for the place that we live and the people that are in this community, a loving and good community. And these things we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Commissioner Robert, could you care to lead us in the pledge?
Agent, salute the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, board, if everybody can go ahead and make yourself aware of our ethics awareness and conflict of interest reminder. If anybody has a conflict of interest at this time, please let the board know.
Could you all speak louder for old 86-year-old people?
Hearing no conflicts, we'll move on to item 6, which is going to be the additions or changes to the agenda.
Madam Vice Chairwoman, I propose that we add underneath items for discussion. Item 13D, to consider the adoption of the Temperance Bill ordinance. Item 13E, consider the amendment to the subdivision ordinance. Item 14, under items under the consent agenda, I move that we add item 14D, the home and community care block grant for older adults. Agreement of the provision of county-based agent services. Item 14E, communications contracts. Item 16, the clerk report, and item 12E, Mitchell County 4X Shooting Sports Club.
Can we alter that, Brandon, item 16 to do item 17 instead, and just move her right after county manager, is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll amend my motion to make item 16 item 17.
You said item 12E.
12E under 12E will go under reports and presentations.
4H shooting sports, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. You said all that in the form of a motion, to make that in a second, please.
Second.
Is that fine? Yeah, I think it's fine. All in favor? Motion carried. All right, I'll go ahead and call for a motion to adopt the agenda tonight.
So moved.
Thank you, Jeff.
Second.
Thank you, Clayton. All in favor? Motion carries. All right, moving right along to item 9 under public hearings. So 9A is going to be what? Oh, sorry. Thank you, Taylor. All right, so moving back up to item 8, the approval of the minutes. That would be for June the 20th, 2023. I will need a motion to approve those tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Now we move on to item 9, public hearings. So 9A is the public hearing for the chemical spill ordinance. And the purpose of public hearing is to allow the community to give their input about said subjects. And to start that out, I'm going to ask county manager to open that up, and then we will go in order with the public comment cards as I receive those.
Okay, just want to give you all a little background on the chemical spill ordinance. In the past year, we have had 3 incidents involving chemical tankers on our roads. More specifically, a lot of those incidents centered around the Red Hill area, and this commission board has been very proactive in looking at a redesign with the Department of Transportation on that 197-226 intersection coming out of Red Hill. We're working on that angle. This commission board is also looking at safety in the event of a spill that you're talking about chemicals getting in our creeks, chemicals hurting individual citizens in our community, and then the cleanup of those spills. That taxes our first responders. So we want to have a chemical spill ordinance that would address those folks that are coming through our community transporting hazardous, dangerous chemicals. And so this ordinance is really focused and specific towards that. Now, you might ask, saying, well, what if I have a car accident out there and some gas spills out of my vehicle onto the roads? Does this spill penalize a citizen for that? So if I were looking at a gas spill, typically what happens is they throw some spill cleanup materials on it. What would that be? Something like a 25-pound bag of something like kitty litter. Forgive me my proper terminology, but it'd be something to soak up that oil and that gas. And we're not talking major expense on that. In addition, the auto insurance policy would probably cover anything that is incidental to that wreck in most policies. So this is really aimed at a chemical spill that lets out 150 gallons of chemicals into our environment that requires us to close down an area, requires us to remediate an area. We are wanting to make sure that our folks driving on our roads, using our roads, does all the proper precautions, and this chemical spill ordinance addresses that. And the specifics of it is the chemical spill and hazardous materials cleanup ordinance. It helps first responders recoup some chemical spill costs that's related on a schedule that's kind of comparable to that of FEMA and other areas. So your first responders, we're already on a budget that's kind of bootstrap anyways with the funds they do have. And it does, if there is a big spill, it does help them kind of get some reimbursement off of that. So that would be my statement, on that before we went into public comment. And I know we have a few on that, Harley. So if you wanted to move forward.
If you'll set a time period per speaker and an overall time.
Okay. Typically, we do public comment for 3 minutes, so I'll make sure we set a timer. And then we will allow 40 minutes for this first topic, so then we can move on to item. The second one is the subdivision ordinance. So, Miss Christie Thrift.
Okay, yeah, in addition
If
to
you'll
that,
come up here.
oh God, really, I'll just say that there hate speaking.
You
Okay,
have
that's
3
fine.
minutes, and
All
then
right.
hear the timer.
Short. All right. I just have 3 questions in addition to what you just mentioned. Is what the truck's carrying public knowledge? Like, is there a public MSDS that we know exactly what is spilling from the trucks? So we also know how we can take care of ourselves in addition to the mines and themselves taking care of each other and EMS for that matter. So I was just wondering if like there is a public MSDS that is on that. I think that should also carry over to any like sediment ponds and things that go into our waterways. The other question I have is about escorts or flaggers with the trucks. When I first moved here 8 years ago, And I moved down to Red Hill 7 years ago. I noticed a lot more flaggers. I know everybody in the world is short staffed. And I've noticed less flaggers, but I'd like to know when those are required. And, you know, how you dictate that. Like, I know there's a difference between spent acid and active acid and all that stuff. I've done some research, but not everybody knows that. So the third thing is, after Alan mentioned like water sampling, after that original spill that happened right there at the creek, did anybody, I saw that it was dug up, great, but did anybody test the creek and soil later? And did they also test where that creek goes into the Toe River? And when things like that happen, instead of me finding out about it later, I'm a outfitter on the Toe River and I recreate on the Toe River, and I should know that immediately. I shouldn't have to find it out like, you know, 24 hours later after I've been in it and had people in it. So that's it.
That's all you got?
Yes.
All right, yeah.
Okay, I'm writing those down. I'll
Thank you.
address them.
And so, we will address, all the questions after we've had time to hear everybody's,
Absolutely.
in the meeting. Okay, Christie? All right, Philip Franklin, you are next.
Yeah.
You have 3 minutes.
Yeah, there's that is an issue, the fluoride, the caustic acid and all that stuff. And yeah, it is a mess when they crash or leak or whatever. And it will kill you. It will kill the people. So if you get a dose of fluoride, not in your toothpaste, but on your skin, be hoisted to the hospital if you can make it. I live right next door to an acid tank farm. It's diluted fluoride, same stuff they haul up down the road and they squirt and all that. And so far so good. I'm just wondering when today is, that thing's gonna leak, contaminate my whole neighborhood. So if it contaminates, say, 4 or 5 acres, what's the fire department gonna do there? You know, they're gonna reimburse us, or the chemicals, or the trucking company perhaps. There's a lot to look at with these chemicals, and you know, but if it goes out to a car wreck and diesel fuel and stuff leaking out on the ground, we had an accident in Avery County. A truck wrecked right in front of our house. We lived right on 221 at the time. And diesel fuel squirting out like crazy, as big as your finger, and so on. And Linville Fire Department, Crossing will come out and they done the cat litter thing. And some little square tube sponge things about yay thick, just soaked it up and went on about their business, you know. But it's a totally different ballgame with this fluoride and caustic acid. And I hope we can come to something good with this. And but for the motor oil and stuff like that, you know, I see we getting charged with county taxes. Then I see all these other charges pertaining with this thing. And I was thinking on the way over here, it kind of looks like double dipping. And you know, I'm just concerned about some double dipping issues and maybe some. Have we got the fire departments able to treat a fluoric acid type of thing? And another thing, they should not be putting fluoride in the school system's water supplies. That's a big no-no. So that's about all I know to speak about right at the moment. And hopefully these escort companies will escort them in the counties and back out, because these roads down through Red Hill and down through there, they absolutely suck. So be honest with you, to run an 18-wheeler down them roads, you're gonna have to cross the yellow line, and by law, that's illegal, ain't it, Mr. Attorney? And you cross that yellow line. So there's a lot to look at.
Thank you, Bill. All right, Peter Franklin, you're up next.
All right, so I spoke with the county manager this morning, told me a little bit about it, and I still say this, and then with his opening statement here and all, it sounds like a good idea, but is it? The way the thing's written, it would apply to individuals that have a car accident with no fault of their own. So why not make it specifically for commercial carriers? Put it in there, you know, to where it applies to them. And if you're gonna do the ordinance, not just commercial carriers, y'all forgot about your trains. That's not mentioned at all. And that's the big issue, we see on TV. So you might ought to apply that. You got antifreeze, transmission fluid, oil and fuel that could come out of a car onto the road. And I don't even know if the insurance will cover that stuff or not, and it does seem like double dipping to a certain extent. The charges that y'all have listed in here are extreme by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm glad we have emergency response. I'm glad people come out and enforce. But if they're doing that and you're going to get charged for it, good grief, you got on here, I put on you, y'all's numbers here, fire engine showing up $250 an hour. Heavy rescue equipment, $250 an hour. Aerial device, I assume a drone, $350 an hour. Support vehicle, brush truck, $125 an hour. Ambulance, $200 an hour. Emergency management vehicle, $45 per hour. Fire marshal vehicle, $45 per hour. All responding personnel, time and a half per hour. Materials used, cost plus 10%. Materials damaged, cost plus 10%. Mileage, current federal rate per mile. That's extreme for a car wreck. But if you want to make it to commercial carriers and the railroad, that's something different, I don't think it's a bad idea. But for individuals, yeah, it's my take.
Thank you, Peter. Was there any more public comment cards for the chemical spill ordinance that I missed? Okay. Hearing none. And then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing for item 9A, the chemical spill ordinance. And we will go ahead and open the public hearing for the subdivision ordinance, and I'll go ahead and ask the county manager to speak about that, and then I will call on the individual as I receive their cards.
Right.
Weren't y'all gonna answer the questions pertaining to the subdivision?
It's later on in the meeting, it's under
Oh.
discussion.
Oh,
The public hearing is for us just to hear from the public. But yes, we are gonna.
okay.
All right, appreciate everybody being out here and appreciate the good input we're getting here. Okay, folks, I want to just kind of read to you a little bit about the process of the amended Mitchell County subdivision ordinance with our proposed changes for the public here today. So I'm going to read you a little bit about what those proposed amendments are and explain to you a little bit about them. And then you all can provide comment. So this past spring, the Mitchell County Board of Commissioners revisited the Mitchell County subdivision ordinance to look at possible revisions. In order to get input from citizens, a public workshop was held at the Mitchell County Commissioner Boardroom on April 25th from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. This workshop was advertised via local newspaper, radio, social media, and the Mitchell County website. The video of the workshop can be accessed on YouTube via the Mitchell County link on YouTube. The existing ordinance, which was passed in August of 2022, had several areas in need of improved or additional legal wording. While working with the county attorney to make legal adjustments, the board made a few other clarifications and additions to the ordinance as requested by citizens, developers, and real estate agents. The resulting amendments, in conjunction with the original framework of the Mitchell County subdivision ordinance, will provide developers with clear direction and also expand exceptions to the ordinance for citizens and families who choose to develop on a small scale. This amended ordinance continues with the original aim to require adequate access for emergency vehicles, better protect the buyer from schemes and uninformed developers, provide developers with key guidelines for mountain area development, and set standards for proper health and environmental provisions. Here's a summary of the proposed amendments. So amendment number 1, we're going to say that we were at 5 acres. This commission board voted to lower that to 3 acres. So greater than 3 acre lots are no longer in the Mitchell County subdivision ordinance. In Article 5, Section 2A, the amended Mitchell County subdivision will allow an exception for the division of land into parcels greater
than 3 acres instead of 6 acres. Or I think 5 acres as well, if no street or right of way dedication is involved. In other words, under the amended subdivision ordinance, if you are dividing land into lots greater than 3 acres, the Mitchell County subdivision ordinance will not apply. The premise behind the revision is that in most cases, a 3-acre lot is large enough to accommodate utilities, drain fields, road access, sewer, and water. This exception still protects the buyer. For example, should a developer design a development with lots greater than 3 acres and go bankrupt, investors would still likely have a large enough piece of property to sell or use otherwise. The other change, better legal wording for family subdivisions. In Article 5, Section 2C, wording was removed to ensure that the exception for the division of land among family members had no restrictions. The original wording states that subdivision rules would apply if the subdivided property was sold for profit outside the family. The wording was eliminated, thus allowing family members full control in the division and sales among family members. In the event one decides to divide their land within the family, Mitchell County subdivision ordinance does not apply. More Mitchell County subdivision exceptions per legal requirements. So we added a lot of legal requirements that were in line with bringing clarity. So in Article 5, Section 2E, 2F, 2G, 2H, 2I, exceptions were added to accommodate legal requirements related to state general statutes, probated wills, transportation corridors, and adjacent boundaries. Basically, these were legal additions that were not clarified in the original ordinance. We have a 5-year limit on past division of land. In Article 5, Section 3, new wording was added to set a time limit of 5 years on past divisions. Subdivisions created more than 5 years prior to the submission of the current application shall not be considered as part of the review of the current application. Water and sewer system wording simplified. In Article 6, wording was simplified related to subdivision water and sewer systems. Since water and sewer systems fall under the requirements established by the state of North Carolina, one sentence summarized about 10 paragraphs and statements and everything in there. So we condensed that to about a sentence was added to summarize and replace the past section that states each subdivision of land shall meet the minimum requirements established by the state of North Carolina for water and septic compliance, including any rules and regulations established for the Board of Health having jurisdiction in Mitchell County. So it basically said if you're running with the state's requirement and the health board's requirement, you're okay. Access road standards clarified. In Article 7, Section D, legal clarification was made regarding the use of access roads into a subdivision. The wording was added to establish standards for existing road easements not located on the proposed subdivision. Basically, the access road must accommodate a properly sized fire response vehicle per NC fire code. In addition, erosion control standards of the Mitchell County subdivision ordinance must be met. Performance bond requirement for lots sold prior to road construction. This is another legal one. Article 7, Section E, legal wording was added to require the developer to post a performance bond if the subdivision lots were sold prior to the road infrastructure being in place. Easements must account for increased traffic load. So if you're on an access road and you're living there and all of a sudden they put a subdivision and it's increased the traffic on that road from 1 car to 100 cars in a day, that burden of servitude has increased. So we have in Article 7, Section F4, legal wording was added that legal easements and access roads to the new subdivision have proper documentation and easements have wording in place to address the increased traffic on the existing road. New grade allowance if engineer designs and fire truck sizes change. So in Article 7, Section 4A and 4B, The board made clarifications and allowance related to grade requirements. Clarification was made related to fire truck access. New wording states that the subdivision roads must be able to accommodate a sufficiently sized fire response vehicle per NC fire code. Wording was added that a licensed engineer can design roads outside the grade requirements if certain conditions are met. All right, new curve allowance if an engineer designs a road. So on curvature, same deal. If you have a licensed civil engineer stamping that design and it accommodates a sufficiently sized fire response vehicle, the main thing is we want fire trucks to get up there and be able to help in time of need. Then that civil engineer can redesign that road up to standards. We got another option for cul-de-sac design in Article 7, Section 3H. In addition to current wording in the Mitchell County subdivision ordinance, developers will now have the option to design cul-de-sacs in accordance with North Carolina Fire Code Appendix D. So the Appendix D was not in the fire code as a requirement, but since it was an advised type of design by the fire code, we're going to allow that. So that's another option on your cul-de-sac design. We have more specific wording for multifamily units in Article 11, Section 3B. Legal wording was added to specify the number of multifamily units per acre. Lots must show minimum and maximum elevations. In Article 13, Section 2I, additional wording is added. Final subdivision plat must show minimum and maximum elevations on each lot. Technical review committee is expanded. So in Article 14, Section 1, in order to provide for more oversight in the decision-making process, the technical review committee was increased from 5 to 9 members. The expanded committee will now include the following: 1 North Carolina licensed real estate professional or real estate attorney, 1 North Carolina licensed surveyor, 1 professional excavation contractor or North Carolina licensed civil engineer, and 1 North Carolina licensed business contractor. Another section here, new section added to address the subdivision completion. So in other words, when you're closing out a subdivision, what is your next steps? In Article 17, Section 1 and 2, legal wording was added to establish continuing obligations and the process for the completion and recording of a subdivision. The basis of this section discuss the conditions for final plat approval, maintenance, and subdivision in a manner to allow emergency vehicle. The amended Mitchell County subdivision ordinance will equip our county with the tools to responsibly guide developers while providing exceptions for our citizens who develop on a small scale. In revisiting the Mitchell County subdivision ordinance, Mitchell County Commission Board took stock of citizen concerns to customize changes to fit our unique needs. We're having our public hearing today, and we will welcome your comments. But I do want to say, as you're commenting, I will take notes, and as I've done in this process, I always will take notes and follow up as according, and also in the discussion time. If there's something technical on there that I need to address in there as you're making comments, I'm taking notes. So just want y'all to know that. And as you know, a lot of y'all that voice a lot of your concerns, I think you can hear them as we talk about this amended subdivision ordinance.
All right, thank you for that. And first public comment for the public hearing subdivision ordinance is Gary. Peter handed me yours first, so I'll let you go first.
I'll be brief. I really do think, Alan, you did a good job of going through that stuff. So, as hard as that was, I really appreciate y'all taking the opportunity to cut that down to 3 acres. I think that showed a lot of common sense. And the reason being, anybody that said before, this land around here, you know, the steeper the land, the bigger the piece you're gonna have to cut. But 3 acres, you ought to be able to get everything you need on there. And I wasn't here the last time. We got confused on her talking back and forth, Peter was sick, so I didn't know about it, but I would like to have been here, but I did go back and watch that thing. And one thing I would say, some of y'all had talked back and forth about raising the number of lots before it fell into this. And then that kind of, I don't know where it went, but that was a really good idea. I think I would suggest, if you would, raising it to 10 lots before it fell under it. Because if you're trying to protect against Penland happening, 10 lots, if you do 10 lots before it, comes out of the subdivision ordinance, you're not going to have to worry about Penland happening again with 10 lots. And if you get the 10 lots in there, then you do the 3 acre piece. About any small developer around here is going to be able to, it can go under that, and it won't really affect anything unless it gets to a bigger subdivision. Another thing I want to point out, and you always think about something once you get out of here that you didn't think about. But one thing that somebody told me, they said, with Spruce Pine and Bakersville, under this subdivision ordinance, you would not have like Summit Avenue out there in Spruce Pine, where you've got fire hydrants and you've got access to that. So you might want to think about, and I don't know exactly the right way to do this, but you might want to exclude Spruce Pine and Bakersville from this ordinance, because you wouldn't have any of those town streets there with those houses on it, and they can make their own ordinance. I mean, you may want to think about that, because if in other words, if Spruce Pine annexed some land, then that should, if you excluded Spruce Pine and Bakersville, that should fall outside it, and you've still got those similar streets to what's going on now. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope I'm getting my point across. I'm not doing a very good job, I'm sure of it, but you know what I'm saying? If you drive down City Street to Spruce Pine, you've got those houses right next to each other, but you've got the fire hydrant right there too. So I mean, you want to keep that option open to have that density out there. If you got, and I'm sure Mr. Eggers can word it a lot better than I'm wording it, but I think you get the point there. So I was just gonna see if I had anything else. I think that's it. I think that's about it. And I think you did a good job about the engineer stuff, because they designed those roads. That should be good enough. But I just asked you to consider raising up the number to 10, and I appreciate you doing the 3 acres. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, Peter, you are up.
Okay. Thank you for what you've done, what you've come up with. I remain in total opposition of the subdivision ordinance. No county government should be regulating the major financial assets of individuals and how they choose to liquidate those assets. You act not only to devalue folks' assets, but adds unnecessary financial burdens on being able to cash out at the highest and best use. You guys don't need to be in my pocketbook any more than you already are. You don't need to be in anyone else's either. We're the second smallest county in the state. We have declining population. We have declining rooftops. According to the latest Spruce Pine Land Use Plan, 12% from 2011 to 2021. That means buildings are not outpacing the destruction of homes. We're not building to outpace that. We have no high-end developments in Mitchell County. Yancey, your next door neighbor county, is going gangbusters. They have Mountain Air and part of Wolf Laurel, neither of which could exist in the Mitchell County under the guidelines of this current ordinance. Yet, here we are, piddling around with how to stifle development and promote stagnation. We should be meeting about marketing this area and to promote it and to bring in as many people, homes and industry and retail jobs as possible. Our kids are suffering on account of this, but no, this is our focus. I ask each of you tonight, Republican up, and put a stop to this whole thing. That being said, however, now, if you insist on continuing with this, my big thing is what he brought up also, please exempt the town of Spruce Pine and the town of Bakersville from this ordinance. If they want a subdivision ordinance, they can produce their own. The town of Burnsville, for example, has their own ordinance. Yancey County does not have an ordinance. Burnsville has their own ordinance, even though they opted out of it. With their own, the towns have their own zoning, they have their own water and sewer, and it only makes sense. Most of the communities in Spruce Pine could not be built if they had to comply with the standards of the ordinance. It will force people to buy larger lots in town and will cost more to connect water and sewer due to the larger lot sizes if we keep this onto the towns. And this is a suburban policy. Your subdivision ordinance is a suburban policy that's being, you're gonna try to apply it to a city structure. And it's overstepping the town. That's my point. And increasing it to 10, as Gary said also, that would be my other request, if we're going to proceed with this. So. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more public comment cards about the subdivision? Maggie, did you want to speak on this for 3 minutes?
But then,
For the subdivision?
okay, I just have one question. By the way, I don't have a dog in this fight because I don't know enough to have a dog in this fight. But I do know this. For the last 2 years, I've been trying to get a surveyor to survey my property on 19E. And if you're gonna require all these things for people that they have to do, you better be sure you've got the manpower to handle your requirements, because you don't right now. And this is, I mean, I have the surveyor that I've talked to can survey one corner of my property, put one stake in in 3 years from now. And I don't know any other surveys beside the one. If you do, please let me know. That's all I got to say. Be sure you have the manpower available to implement your regulations. A lot of it sounds really good to me, but I don't, like I say, I don't know enough yet to know. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Maggie. We'll move on to item 11A. I mean, our tax collector charge. Oh, yeah, sorry. We did close the public hearing for the subdivision. Steve, you're just in time.
Sorry.
Don't pass it off. We just started, you missed all the public comments.
Let's see here, so how sure we have you?
We'll catch up if you want. All right, so we are at appointments 11A, so I will pass it off to you.
Thank you for doing that.
Would it? We don't have to vote, because it's on the close it.
All speakers have
Yeah.
been heard and used, but
Yeah, I'll vote that.
Okay.
You can do that to me.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming out tonight. Sorry for being late. I had an emergency at my work, so couldn't quite leave, so. God bless you.
Sorry.
You're okay.
Thank you.
But
Canadian fire.
that's right, that smoke's coming down hard. So next thing on the agenda tonight, we've got the appointments for tax collector. And do I have a motion for appointment?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, they're in here. So,
I'll do the others, but she has to vote to the point.
yeah, yeah. So do we have a motion to appoint Miss Jessica Presnell as tax collector? So moved.
Second.
All in favor, vote by the usual sign. Motion carries. Next thing we've got is do we have to do the oath as part of the, right now?
Yeah.
We've got. It's Jesse out there in the back.
I was like, I heard her view from the front door. There's no room in the front. I will do the charge first.
Yes, this should be that.
Okay, you are hereby authorized, empowered, and commanded to collect the taxes set forth in the tax records filed in the office of Mitchell County Tax Collector and in the tax receipts herewith delivered to you in the amounts and from the taxpayers likewise therein set forth. Such taxes are hereby declared to be a first lien upon all real property of the respective taxpayers in the county of Mitchell. And this order shall be a full and sufficient authority to direct, require, and enable you to levy on and sell any real or personal property of such taxpayer for and on account thereof. That's the charge for you, so you'll sign this and then take your oath. Sign. I've got a pin for you up here.
First time myself. Learning this.
Okay, so this one you'll repeat after me. Sure.
Yeah. you wanna-
Ready? I do solemnly swear.
I do solemnly swear
That I will support and maintain.
that I will support and maintain
The Constitution and laws.
the Constitution and laws
Of the United States.
of the United States
And the Constitution and laws.
and the Constitution and laws
Of North Carolina.
of North Carolina,
Not inconsistent therewith.
not inconsistent therewith,
And that I will not allow my actions.
and that I will not allow my actions
As collector.
as collector
To be influenced.
to be influenced
By personal or political friendship.
by personal or political friendship
Or obligations.
or obligations,
And that I will faithfully.
and that I will faithfully
Discharge the duties.
discharge the duties
Of my office as tax
of
collector.
my office as tax collector.
So help me God.
So help me God.
You did something. Started.
Next one is our deputy tax collector charge. That's Miss Stacy. That's it.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Sandra as the deputy tax collector.
Second.
All in favor, vote for you the same. Motion carries.
Alright. To the deputy tax collector of the county of Mitchell, you are hereby authorized, empowered, and commanded to collect the taxes set forth in the tax records filed in the office of the Mitchell County Deputy Tax Collector and in the tax receipts herewith delivered to you in the amounts and from the taxpayers likewise therein set forth. Such taxes are hereby declared to be a first claim upon all real property of the respective taxpayers in the county of Mitchell. And this order shall be a full and sufficient authority to direct, require, and enable you to levy on and sell any real or personal property of such taxpayer for and on account thereof in accordance with law.
If you'll- I'm working.
All right. I do solemnly swear.
I do solemnly swear
That I will support.
that I will support
And maintain.
and maintain
The Constitution and laws.
the Constitution and laws
Of the United States.
of the United States
And the Constitution and laws.
and the Constitution and laws
Of North Carolina.
of North Carolina,
Not inconsistent therewith.
not inconsistent therewith,
And that I will not allow.
and that I will not allow
My actions as collector.
my action as collector
To be influenced by personal.
to be influenced by personal
Or political friendships.
or political friendships
Or obligations.
or obligations,
And that I will faithfully.
and that I will faithfully
Discharge the duties.
discharge the duties
Of my office.
of my office
As deputy tax collector.
as deputy tax collector.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Roll now. We got this down fast. A little slow out the gate. We're catching up.
No.
The next one on the agenda is the tax assessor. I have a motion
We nominate Mr. Blair Hyder.
Move. Second.
All in favor, vote for the usual sign. Motion carries.
We will only have an oath. All right.
That's not easy.
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of North Carolina,
of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will not allow
and I will not allow
my actions as assessor
my actions as such
to be influenced
to be influenced
by personal or political friendships
by personal or political friendships
or obligations,
or obligations,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
as tax assessor.
as tax assessor.
So help me God.
So help me God. Next one we got is the appointment of the county manager. Do I have a motion to appoint Mr. Alan Cook as county manager? So moved. Yeah, motion Clayton and a second from Brandon. All in favor, vote the usual sign. Motion carries. Congratulations.
No, this isn't here. She doesn't start to know this.
Well, that will do. That is right. That's good. That makes me feel bad that I ain't called her. Never mind. Sorry, I feel bad that I've not done my due diligence on that. I have a motion, we appoint Mavis Parsley as the finance director.
So moved.
Second, all in favor, vote the usual sign. Motion carries. Last one on here is clerk to the board. Do I have a motion to appoint Taylor McCurry to the clerk?
So
So
moved.
moved. Got it, Harley with a motion, Brandon with a second. All in favor, vote the usual sign. Motion carries. All right. Next one on the list for this evening is the employee of the month. Where's Lisa at? She's hiding. Come on in. We can let you sit outside. Stay right there. We appreciate you. Mitchell County Board of Commissioners would like to recognize Lisa Scott, DSS Child Protective Services Social Worker, as the employee of the month for June. Since joining the DSS team as social worker, Lisa has consistently given 110% to every case and every child that she encounters. She walks beside the families to assist with processing their trauma. Lisa's strengths include, but not limited to, the ability to think quick on her feet, always applying her critical thinking skills to ensure that the child's safety is the first main priority. These skills are not only helpful in the field, but also in team meetings and during court. She doesn't hesitate to advocate for the families and speak up accordingly when she feels there are concerns of child abuse or neglect. Lisa has the ability to remain calm in stressful situations and communicate professionally while testifying or holding difficult conversations with the families in her caseloads and without judgment or criticism. Lisa is always the first person to offer help to anyone and will spend countless hours with her coworkers to provide additional support when needed, even if it requires long hours, early mornings and late nights. One example includes going to Mission Hospital when a baby had to be transferred after hours for support to her coworker and the family. Lisa is greatly appreciated for her commitment, reliability, enthusiasm, and quality of work. Thank you, Lisa, for going above and beyond and advocating for the safety of our children in the community. Maintain the great professionalism and strong working relationships with everyone that share the common goal to serve and protect our children. Congratulations on being selected as employee of the month. Present you with the flag.
The whole board in here. If I was looking at my face in the paper one time, I know, I'm tired of looking at it, but it's got to be. I'll drag all you guys in here with me. Get us out there. I want to get this.
1, 2, 3. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Appreciate you, everything you do. So on the list, we've got the tax collector's report. Yes.
You have a copy of the preliminary reports for fiscal year. And the settlement, you have given them all that. And then the personal property and real property, so you have all of that. The report for the collections activity for June was $47,947.36. The collection rate for the month ending June is 97.93. And ending June of last year, 97.93. We currently have 61 taxpayers on the payment plan. And there's currently 12 taxpayers on wage garnishments. And Attorney Dean Grindstaff's office will be filing 2 judgment cases tomorrow. And some foreclosures coming up. And 2 auction notices have been set out. That's just an update on those. Okay.
Questions? Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the list is Mitchell County Ag Extension Interim Director Brian Cady.
I was gonna try and get him a TV in here to do his presentation, but we're so packed in here. You wing that without one, I can get one rigged some way.
I got it.
Okay,
Not the first time I adapted.
that, yeah.
So first off, just want to say thank you to the commissioners for allowing me to speak to you tonight. It's my pleasure to be here and serve as your interim county director. Want to go just real quickly through kind of a background of cooperative extension, and most of you are aware of that. Cooperative extension started as part of the Smith-Lever Act in 1914. So what we are part of, we are representing North Carolina State University and North Carolina A&T State University. And then as part of that, the way the land grant university system works, there's a teaching component, there's a research component, and then there's an extension component. And extension is exactly what it says. It extends the information from the university out to the community. And that's our role here. We function as part of that land grant system. Our mission is to partner with communities to deliver education and technology that enrich the lives, land, and the economy of North Carolina. So that's our role from a state perspective. We are based in every county and the eastern band of the Cherokee Indians. So we are in every county. We have folks in every county, hopefully to bring you the information that you need or want or that communities need. We have several programs that we operate under, from agriculture to youth development to community development to family and consumer sciences. We work in all of those. A lot of the things that we do are hands-on with folks, and that's the way we like that. If we can do it in an integrated approach, working with the economy, with land, and with lives, and we affect the people of this community. And that's our role here, is what we want to do. So when I was talking with Alan, when I started, he asked me to share a little bit about the vision for Mitchell County Extension moving forward. So if you'll permit me, I'll take just a few minutes to do that. We are being reborn. We have a very young staff. So we are trying to keep the momentum alive here today. That's what we want to do. We want to get the best people on board. We're starting some interviews tomorrow for a 4-H agent to come on board with us. We want to be responsive, relevant, and we want to lead by example. That's our goal here. We want to be respected in the community like we have been before. Our youth component or 4-H is functioning very well. We have folks working with us this summer to make sure that kids are being offered opportunities to learn and to do, even in the absence of a 4-H agent. We're taking care of that. But once we get that new 4-H agent on board, we expect this program to be re-energized and grow back to the program that it was. One of the things that I see as important, especially working with youth, is if we can do integrated programs. And what I mean by that, I'll give you an example. A lot of folks don't realize where food comes from. You ask kids a lot, where does food come from? And it's a grocery store. So for instance, what we would like to do is have Shane bring someone in from the horticulture side, a producer of some sort, to bring in some produce or something. We can have Katie prepare that in a way that was healthy while we're teaching kids where food comes from and put them in touch with that, so that everything works together in one big bubble to get an understanding of the circle of food production. Along with the vision of that, the agricultural heritage here is strong. I've been here a little over a month and I have discovered that over and over and over, but challenges do exist for you guys. Extension must adapt and lead effectively to try to work with that and be trusted during this unprecedented time of transition. And some of those challenges are loss of farmers. If you go back and look, excuse me, at the Census of Agriculture in 2017 versus Census of Agriculture in 2012, we saw about a 20% reduction in farmers. That's not good. The average age of farmers in Mitchell County today is 57. They're not going to be farming forever. We also have a lack of young replacements. We've got to figure out a way to get young people involved in agriculture. We have a need for new marketing avenues, whatever we're getting to do. We also need to balance new and historic programs. What I mean by that is, Allen grows Christmas trees. Well, we might not be talking about Christmas trees, but for years we did. So there are folks who want to be part-time Christmas tree growers, and we need to work with those folks just as much as we're working with folks who want to do something totally new. So one of the things we're talking about is involvement in marketing local crops through Tractor. It's now located here. But I'd challenge everyone to think about also developing new items to market. We've got to protect farmland. We need to keep that here. We've got to do what I call indigenous entrepreneurship. Great big word, just meaning local people coming up with ideas and taking it to fruition. What I'm talking about there might be something like new packaging for products that go through Tractor. If you've ever worked with a local food hub like I have, local produce, fresh produce, you sell or you smell. There's no in between. All right. And sometimes that smell is not because the produce is bad. It's just because there are things that got in the way of getting it done. What if we repackaged that? What if we chopped it up, froze it, put it in a plastic bag? How many meals does Mission Hospital in Nashville serve a day? Those would be true value added things that we could work with to help young people get involved with. Wouldn't take a whole lot of land. They wouldn't have to have way up here kind of production. They wouldn't have to have all of that. We got to foster agricultural awareness in youth and families. We can use agriculture as a vehicle to teach youth, parents, and educators STEM in a real tangible, touchable way. That's what we do. That's a goal for us this year. We got to regain recognition as a leader in community affairs. We can help lead. We can help work with these things that you guys face, that the communities face, the issues that are going on to try to reach a solution for both sides. We can foster and create community dialogue about issues of concern. It's not always about ag. It's about youth. It's about family and consumer science. It's about farmland protection. It's about all those things. We can be a facilitator for issues in communities and other venues. So to boil it down, this is what I told Alan. We want to be responsive, relevant, and respected. And we'll work hand in hand with county government, agriculture, industry, schools, and the citizens to make Mitchell County the place we want to raise our families, grow our economy, and maintain our rural character. That's what I see as a vision for Extension. When we met as a staff and talked about this vision, everyone's on board. So I think we're moving forward. I think we got a good team and we're gonna get better. I'll be happy to take any questions any of you folks might have. Just want to say thank you for your allowing me just a minute to speak. We want to invite you on the 26th to an open house that we're doing, just to get folks reacquainted with us. It's from 3 to 6. It's going to be over at the park, and we'll leave in Fiji. How about that?
Ryan's like,
Riverside Park, yeah, this park or Riverside Park.
The Riverside is great one.
Yes, Harley.
Okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
What day?
The 26th from 3 to 6. We would love to see you all there.
thank you for being so thorough. I had 3 questions, but you addressed all of them, so.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Anyone else?
Any kind of timeline when we might see a full-time director?
I have not been made aware. I know the position is posted. It was originally posted with 4-H as a addendum to it. It has now been changed to community and rural development, especially with local foods directive with that.
Okay.
Usually they don't inform the interim until they're getting ready to interview somebody.
Gotcha.
So I'm just here until we can get that done. And what I told everybody is I'm happy to be here as long as you need me. But if you find somebody good, that's fine too.
Appreciate you stepping in and doing it.
Yes, sir. It's my pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Next item we got is the Mitchell County 4-H shooting sports club.
I think those boys out in home. Yeah. I come on in, I'll pick this thing up for these guys. These guys are on my pistol shooting team. And they are going to be attending a conference at the national or the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners convention. And as a part of that, they needed to come before the board and make a little presentation about their club. And get a picture with us. So I'll turn it over to them. I'll say, be gentle with them. I think this is their first public presentation. So.
Thank you.
Floor is yours. There's only about 10,000 people watching online too, so you got it. I'll give you a hard time.
Well, I'm Connor Miller. I'm the 2023 Mitchell County 4-H Shooting Sports President, and this is our secretary for this year, Branson Pittman. And we're just here to give you a little presentation about what our club does and how we operate. So, yeah, like Brandon said, we're here because we're required to as part of trying to go to the NCACC conference, and they want us to just give a little presentation about our involvement in 4-H.
So we are the Mountaineers 4-H Shooting Sports Club. We have approximately 30 shooters that are divided up into 2 separate teams, the juniors and the seniors. The juniors contain the younger kids and the seniors contain the older kids. And we're coached by 8 certified adult volunteer coaches.
Yeah, so for most of the year, once the weather gets good, we start practicing on every Friday in our respective disciplines. There's 7: rifle, shotgun, pistol, air rifle, air pistol, archery, and muzzleloader. Some old members do 1, some do multiple. I do 3 myself, and we practice up until competition time, which is about August for our district competition. And once you're approved by your coach as safe and ready to go competition, we go to the West District. And the winners from that go to the state, where they compete against the winners from the other districts, the Central and Eastern. And then winners from the state go to the nationals, which is somewhere out west, I think Nebraska. And then the winners there are sort of getting plaques and crowned for the national 4-H.
I will say my pistol team has made it to the states last year, so they got a great coach.
You boys agree with that? That's
Yeah.
You ain't got no choice.
But another big part of our thing, apart from the shooting, is we try and do several service projects each year, at least 1 to 2, to give back to the community. Recently, we just did one called the Bird Buddies, where we raised about $400 we could buy bird related things for the Mitchell House residents, bird feeders, houses, books, puzzles, just stuff to keep them interested in.
We also do fundraisers such as selling the Christmas trees and going to help cut those down. And we also do a turkey shoot every year. It gets around Christmas time. And we also sell donuts. Thank you for your time. And are there any questions?
I'll just say, man, it's awesome seeing you guys come here and present. I mean, I love seeing any kids doing anything besides sitting around with an iPad or a phone in their hand. So you guys being out shooting at stuff, that's exactly what you're supposed to be doing. That's awesome. And, you know, same with 4-H, man. Thanks for what you guys do. I mean, you provide opportunities to the kids that, you know, I mean, it killed me to see my daughter lay around that house and just with the iPad or that TV on. So, I mean, you know, it's awesome. I wish you guys the best.
Thank you.
Can you get a picture with you, boys?
Yeah.
Come on over here. Big old smile, big friend. Meeting.
Okay. Did you tell everybody?
Should be pretty good.
All right, let's see.
Can't see you, Clayton.
You're okay.
One more.
Jeff, you move this.
There you go.
I almost had to do that, maybe.
I'll take a lot.
You
You tried.
That's it. We're gonna take a 3-minute recess, just a quick break. We got a lot of items coming up here. Just grab a quick bathroom break. So we're gonna recess for about 3 minutes. Sorry, my 3 minutes was not a New York 3 minutes, it was more of like a deep south 6 minutes, but, sorry about that. But thank you. Next item on the list tonight is the, solicitation of new transportation projects for 26 through 2035 step. And I think that's gonna be, County Manager Cook.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner Chair Steve. So we will be submitting names of projects with a point scale to the transportation. Here in the next 5 days it's due, and so I want to tell you a little bit about how that works. So if you have transportation projects, they're awarded a number of points. And we compete in the region. So it's not like you're going to get a project, but if your points are high, you might get funded when they break up that funding among 25 projects. And let's say there's 70 that's submitted projects in 10 different counties. Well, you know, the higher the points, the better your odds are of getting a transportation project. So I wanted to go over kind of the priority of projects that with the board's approval, I'll just go ahead and send those to the high country, to David Graham with or the RPO. So the highest points getter was the Grassy Creek area lane expansion from the Blue Ridge Parkway down the Summit Avenue area. That area right in there has been in a path project. It scores really high. That would be 20,000 car day traffic count, a big corridor coming into the county. That's your highest points getter. A second highest points getter would be a lane general widening and doing just general work on Highway 226 as it comes from the Bakersville turn right here by the courthouse heading towards Beulah Tocane Way. And they thought that they could maybe get a decent points total off if they turn that down up to near 197's turn. So that's a points getter. Another one under federal funds that we could put as a project would be the widening.
I think, sorry, I don't think they can hear it on the live stream.
Okay, so live stream is, there is a delay on live stream
Okay,
that
sorry, I just.
it might take about 3 to 4 minutes because on the DSS it was on the beginning. So
Yeah, there's,
it'll have a little bit of a back feed.
sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, you're all right.
Somebody watching that.
So yeah, we want to have it all. We'll give it just a second more for that live stream to catch up and make sure. Is that looking right, Taylor? We have this new system here with these eyes looking at you here. It's the owls.
So the eyes, video and sound?
It is, it's directional sound. So if it's quiet back there and you're in the back row,
It
you
just
better watch out.
Right.
moved right to your face.
It moves to your face right there. So I got that back row whispered and it could pick me up if all was quiet.
You're on there now. Is it working as they say? I don't know, they've not said.
Okay, if it looks good on our end, I'll keep moving. So
Sorry.
that 226 area right through there, within the state right away, they might do some lane widening, just some general tweaks on that area to make it a little bit wider through that area. Then after 226, they have if you look at town of Burnsville, where 19E comes through and they have the sidewalks and the medians and things, there's some federal funds on there that might be easier to attain for town of Spruce Pine to get that median and sidewalks. So that's one that we can put on our project. Now, the town of Spruce Pine says that one of our new projects, though it's not transportation related, is the bridge from Riverside Park into downtown, but that would take up one of our projects. We get 2 new projects and 2 past projects that we can put on our priority list. So this board, you know, if we use that that Riverside Park pedestrian walk, that's gonna take up one of our new
So
projects.
rebuilding the bridge, the walking bridge.
The walking bridge, this would be pedestrian, but it would count as a transportation project if the points were high enough and we got it. Now, it is not in one of the higher points. But with the town of Spruce Pine getting support from the county, they might get a shot at that one. The other one is, widening out past Hardee's to the Avery County where the lane's wide. They got some points on that. That was about the 4th highest points getter. And I think I have some of those out there, on that, packet that you're seeing. You can see that the commissioners have. So I'm looking at all that. Basically, you got about 3 Spruce Pine projects on getting, and there's a lot of population density over there, and 1 Bakersville project. We get 4 of them to put out there, so we got 4 projects. The 2 highest points getters is Grassy Creek widening and 226 segment of widening and improvements. Grassy Creek's the extra lanes. So those would be 1 and 2 if I were to put it together on a points basis. Number 3 is either going to be the improvements for Spruce Pine. To put the sidewalks in and the pedestrian manner stuff as it would be in the town of Burnsville. Or you could put some support to that pedestrian footbridge if y'all as a board wanted to make that as a 3rd priority. Being it's 3rd, I don't know if you'll have the points to get there. And then 4th is widening it into the Avery County border over there where it's widened as you go out toward Joe Howe's old store site and how you got to what lanes widen. You'd connect the widened lanes from that point to that point. But after that, when you hit about 3 mile, it kind of dead end off. So those are if I have my way, I'm gonna send them in about the order I said. It'll be and this is not, I'm not voted on, so it's not my way. But if I have my way of just looking at from numbers, the numbers game only. Grassy Creek, 226. Improvements to Spruce Pine city limits like Burnsville. And widening out toward Avery County because those are meeting more people's needs, but up to y'all.
I personally would like to see 2 from the north end, 2 from the south end.
Okay. We have,
So is
we
the-
could
is the
do
bridge-
2 phases.
Is the bridge you're talking about, the one that goes to the hotel?
It's from Pine Bridge to the.
It's the footbridge.
The bridge across the river that you can walk across. It's got like the pegs, you go down and
There's
it's.
a grant.
There might be.
So Spruce Pine Main Street has applied for a grant for funding to fix some of that, but I think it's more than what the grant will cover. So
Okay.
it's,
Yeah,
yeah, quite a
there's
bit.
a lot of.
Yeah, I would
things
think
that
there's
are
a lot
going
more really projects and sidewalks on the 226. I would think, yes, being from the north end of the county. There, I'm sure there's things that can be done.
I don't think he was talking about sidewalks.
I thought
It's
you
that
mentioned-
improvements project over
Yeah.
there and that's federal funds. If we got
Yeah.
that, then this might be gravy, you know, if you put it in the mix, you might get it without any kind of state money going on. Since it's a federal highway, but yeah. Like you
Is that
said.
on the 19 or we're on 226 with the
It will-
sidewalks go?
The sidewalks will be on 19E from about the city limits of Spruce Pine, maybe out there towards where Bakersville 226 turns off or where Burlesonville comes down. And go all the way out to about Hardee's. So you'd have a sidewalk and medians if those federal funds were allocated to that.
Is there a call for? Does people do we need sidewalks up? I mean, does anyone actually want
They-
to walk there? Or-
There've been people who've asked for those in the past,
yeah.
yeah, kind of like Burnsville's got the
Mm,
sidewalks for walking and
Mhm.
bikes and all that stuff.
Did Alpha Pass fall anywhere on that up to that Amazon, what that?
No, they didn't have nothing on the stip for Allen Pass.
Maybe we needed
That might be an area to get EDC in there and start hammering on it.
You
So
ought
the
to see
326
something about that truck, the truck.
I tried
That's
to-
true, they're fast through there.
Yeah, I did the stip for sidewalk Blue Ridge Parkway to downtown Spruce Pine, but I think that'll be next year.
So we have a lot of projects going on and it's like, not like you're gonna get it or not. You're just saying, I'm putting some out there and hope to get 1 out of the 4 or 1 out of the 5 that we can get. So if I was submitting that in there, the DOT is giving us a points total on them. they'll re-rank them and re-look at them again, and they might pick one out of all of them that we submit.
If we were to get the sidewalks, that would put us in the running for aging friendly in place.
There's a lot of benefits to that. And like I said, that's federal pretty easy on that, since the state ain't competing as hard.
I'll say there are major developments probably coming out in the Grass Creek area, at least two that I know of, so traffic's gonna increase in that area. That means something to think about.
Well, I'll say this to the board, are y'all good for number one being the Grassy Creek lane widenings? I would ask, yeah. Like I said, they require the counties just to submit what projects you want, and I could even submit them in no set order and just let them just rank them as DOT would, just say, what priorities do you want me to put on there? We get,
Grass Creek's your biggest city.
yeah, that's where all the people are, the county are heading out for Walmart, most of them are, so. Then, okay, so we got Grassy Creek as a need that we're gonna definitely prioritize. 226 widening, that one down through there's got some decent points. I mean, it's not high, it may get beat out, but it's not as high as Grassy Creek's, but it's got some decent points. And we can do a smaller segment, so if we did like from Grassy Creek down to, or not Grassy Creek, from 226 intersection here in Baker, 261, 226 intersection, 226 down to Red Hill, they feel like the points would be a little bigger because it's a smaller segment.
Can I add something there on that section? That's also where you're getting runoff on the road by mine trucks. So that solves two problems in one, not to mention the traffic that's going in and out of Red Hill now and in that area in general, coming both from Tennessee and the North Carolina side is only increasing tenfold due to recreation on that river. I don't know if anybody went down there July 4th, but it was like slammed, and you couldn't park anywhere, you couldn't drive anywhere, people about running each other over. Bonnie and Clyde, it's kind of dangerous. I mean, I just about hit somebody and then they tried to move and somebody almost, hit me. And so I think that's a big place and it's only going to grow out that way as far as people coming in and out for that section of the canyon.
Okay, well, you know what I think I'll have is this board can email me their priority projects on there. I think this is good. I think we got, I think there's about 4 of them, so it's really gonna be which one, would be the one that maybe didn't get included out of all of them.
What's the timing, that you have to submit something back?
I think I have to submit it by mid next week at the latest. It's the deadline.
Before we leave to that.
All right, I think I got about Tuesday of next week or something like that to get that. If y'all just email me or let me know your priority of projects, and I'll send y'all out an email as a board, and you can listen to your constituents. And I'll give you the projects and the names, and then you can rank them for me.
Next item on the agenda this evening is our project manager, Mr. Lloyd Hines, for the site development contract.
We opened bids last Monday, 26th. We had 3. The low bidder was Young and McQueen by a substantial amount. There was a bid for the things we knew had to be done. And then there was a contingency type bid or a bid for allowances on things that might have to be done and may not have to be. That is primarily if we hit groundwater. You've got to control the groundwater with something other than dirt. It makes good mud, but it don't do much to control groundwater, so you got to put stone. And if you do have to put stone, you have to put down geotech fiber. So if we have groundwater, and I'm pretty certain we're going to have some groundwater. Our floor is basically weathered rock, which means old rock that earth movements and earth temperature changes and everything over the centuries has cracked. All weathered, partially weathered, or it's not weathered, it's partially weathered. Where the soil meets partially weathered rock, there are crevices and cracks that water will stay in. They think it's there, I expect it is, but that's going to be very simple to handle. It will require some spots of geotechnical fiber and then stone over it for about 1 foot deep. if you hit water the first foot down, probably quit. If you hit it on the 6 foot down, then you've got to cover up to the point where you hit the water with stone. And Young McQueen is by far the cheapest if there is no water in Calhoun. But if you had to put in 7 feet of stone, they would no longer be the cheapest.
Did the other companies quote the same way?
Everybody got the same bid sheet.
Okay,
Exactly.
so it doesn't matter with the other two, if they hit groundwater, there's gonna be an additional cost.
It's gonna be an additional cost, it's just not as high. Young McQueen was $88,200 cheaper on the base bid. But if you had to go to 7 feet of stone, then Phillips Grading would turn out to be a few dollars cheaper than them. I don't think there's gonna be 7 feet of stone. I don't think we can afford 7 feet of stone.
Bust our budget anyway, so.
It busts their budget. But the geotechs drilled 8 holes out there. They hit partially weathered rock. 6 of them, I believe, but they did not hit water in any of them. We took that big pad out that was 4.5 feet thick. We didn't, Matt Miller did with a big crane and a jackhammer. And it was perfectly dry underneath it and all the way down the side was dry. We're pretty certain there's none in the first 4.5 feet. But there was in the test borings, there was some moist soils. And not wet soils, but moist to dry in some cases and others just moist, but.
Not as bad as the new school.
Oh, no, nothing like that. There is no known pockets of water out there. They didn't find any, but the geotech engineer, based on the floor of weathered rock or partially weathered rock. And I think he's correct that when you crack a rock open, over years and years and years, water's going to get in those cracks. And if we have that, it's very simple. You put down a layer of fiber and a foot of stone, and you don't worry about it.
Lloyd and I think, based on the bore test holes through the geotech and what they bared out, through the analysis, is that at most we need about 2 foot of aggregate in the deeper areas of that dig on that site. At most is what we hope. Now, that's not saying that we're right, but that's what that will go along with the data. And so therefore, we do feel like that Young McQueen contract, being that it's so much lower to the tune of $88,200, and that it would take us hitting about a $500,000 point as a break even to flip over to go to the next lower one. Well, if we're at that point, we may be saying forget it and moving on out of there and looking at a different site if it's that bad. So we do feel, and I'll say there's about 3 of us working on this special projects with Lloyd heading it up. We do feel that the Young McQueen bid is probably going to be the lowest bid if everything bears out in accordance with the geotech borings.
It's my understanding that 4 years reviewed the contract and everything's to your satisfaction.
4 roof contract, I just sent him the information.
Perfect.
Alan, what is this referring to? What is
This is the Mitchell County Recreational Facility, that the center that we're building here in Bakersfield, the indoor track. That's built off of grant money, and we're trying to push that dollar of grant money as far as we can. So therefore, we're stressing over every little dime.
We'll need a motion to move forward with this
Yeah,
contract.
I've talked to our engineer, geotechnical engineer, they want, Young McQueen's gonna have to, they've got a soil source somewhere, I don't know where it is, they do. But it's got to be tested. And a couple of other geotechs are ready to test it so they can, because it takes several days, you put it in a lab or in a container, and you're testing it for moisture, you're testing for compactability. And it's got to pass both those tests. And so they want to start that, and I talked to Justin tonight with Young McQueen. Monday, I guess, or last Thursday. And he said they would get the information on your soil sites to Geotech once this board had approved the contract.
I have a motion. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the contract, yeah, between Greg. Second, all in favor, go please. Motion carries.
If you may estimate, I made you a cheat sheet on the cost at 6 feet, 7 feet, and on down.
Thank you. Yeah,
In case somebody else.
thank you, Project Manager. You're right, Mr. Lord. You're fine attorney, but you're a pretty good project.
Let me tell you
manager,
this,
too.
that fella saved the county a ton of money and you're getting a good deal on him.
And I think we got, whether revenue. Is this, they suggested stop there at $300,000. Well, we would have to go to 5 feet so, 4 feet so, we should have that.
Let's see.
And I do want to thank Fort Eggers, we sent him this information. We can know today, we had a contract back Wednesday and Tuesday was 4th of July. That's pretty fast turnaround.
Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure working with you on this.
And hopefully we'll start digging August 1st.
Get her moved. Thank you, Lord. Next item on the agenda this evening is Senate Bill 749 discussion, the Board of Elections, so.
So if you don't care, can I talk just a little bit about this?
Sure.
So the reason this came about, Steve, is when I attended our district meeting. This was a topic of conversation along with several other highlights. And so after hearing it, I attended the next Board of Election meeting just because I wanted to kind of get their take on it. And I do believe in everybody's box, they should have received a letter signed by the entire Board of Elections. And they did have just a little bit concerns with some of the stuff that's mentioned in that Senate bill. So I do believe that chair of the election board, is that Luther's here to speak on behalf of the entire election board.
Luther, you want to come on up? We appreciate it.
Thank you all. This is something that the Senate passed a bill 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure exact date, but they passed it. Maybe June the 3rd, June the 13th, maybe is, I'm not sure that's where they passed it. That was one bill. And it will fundamentally change the administration of the election as it is done in the state of North Carolina. And it concerns our election board. We met with it and discussed it at length. I don't know. For those who don't, I'm Luther Strout. I'm the chairman of the Mitchell County Board of Elections. And just to put some forethought behind that, I worked my first election in 1972, which most of y'all weren't born at that time, but I have been involved in every election since 1972, 51 years. So I've seen come and go.
I mispronounced your last name for 47 years. You said it, I've always said Stroop, but you said.
Well, I say Strout. That's what my grandfather insisted. But there are several things that concern me on this. And it is going to involve the each county board of commissioners. You all are going to get right in the middle of it and be involved in it, whether you want to or not. That's what, and I was looking over this. I've read and reread this, but I want to thank you all because there have been times been contentious. I've been on the board, Mitchell County Board, since 1990, and But, and it has been fight years ago, and I won't bring that up, but, the duty of the County Board of Commissioners, the respective boards of county commissioners shall appropriate reasonable and adequate funds necessary for the legal functions of the County Board of Elections. You all have done that greatly. Mitchell County Board of Elections is probably in the best shape of a lot of others. We have brand new equipment. We have brand new laptops. We're good to go. But going back and not going on, but just a little history, the State Board of Elections, who is responsible for holding the elections in the state of North Carolina, it has been the State Board of Elections, the people who sit there on have been appointed by both the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, and they oversee the elections. They appoint, we have what's called the State Board of Elections. As it is now, it is called the North Carolina State Board of Elections. And with this bill that has passed the Senate, it is waiting for the House of Representatives, and we have no timetable or anything on it. But what is going to happen is they are transferring the State Board of Elections unto the Secretary of State. You will no longer have a State Board of Elections. It will be under the guise of the Secretary of State. What that does with, we have our own department that oversees it. What that will do to that will, this bill is in a lot of aspects very vague. They are not concrete ideas. And I'm just going to what concerned us mostly. But now what is going to happen, this board is going to be put under the Secretary of State, and the board that governs it will be appointed not by your Democrats and your Republicans. They will be appointed by the General Assembly. They will take recommendations. The state party chairs of two political parties, and this is, Lloyd, you can get up here and help me read this. I know you can, hereby, therefore, why not, and Mr. Eggers. But the thing of it is, they say who can be appointed. But the final two sentences in this paragraph is what I want to call attention to. The General Assembly shall give due consideration to the nominations provided by the party chairs. However, the General Assembly is not required to appoint members from this submitted list and may appoint any registered voter in the state. So your state board will be made up of people who are appointed strictly by the General Assembly. And it will fall under the Secretary of State. And another thing they are redoing, and they tried this 4 years ago, they're going to an 8-member board. What happens when you have 4, 4, and 4? They tried that for 2 or 3 years. It didn't work. They now at a 9-member board, and it works. They've gone back to an 8-member board with this bill that has been passed. It's sitting before the House. And that's what we have problems with on that. But where I want to go now is to the county board. And this is the same thing with the county board. If you're not aware of it, and I try to stay quiet because I try to say non-political, non-partisan, although some people, but that's your county board of elections is made up of 2 members of the Republican Party, which is Greg McKinney and Shane Biggs. Your 2 Democrat members on the board who are appointed basically by your Democrat Party here is Meredith Burleson Holman and Sam McKinney. And then I, through the governor's office, was appointed chairman. And that makes a 5-member board. There can be no ties. This is taking it back to a 4-member board. Again, appointed by the General Assembly. The small county, well, any county, big county, little counties, they will have a say, but it goes back to just what I read a minute ago in here, that however, the General Assembly is not required to appoint members. They can appoint anyone they want to. You're losing control of your local election board, which is, I've done it 50 years. I've begged them this year not to appoint me again, but that didn't work out. And and there are 2 things in here that also I think is that will concern you all. One part in here, it's not what it says, it's what it doesn't say. It deals with your up till this time, and in this time, you all might, and you all do, but you all have no control of your director of the Mitchell County Board of Elections. That falls directly under the Mitchell County Board of Elections. The director is appointed by her, is appointed by them, the board, to keep it out of the clutches of political shenanigans or anything else. It's independent, it's free, fair, and independent is what I should say, free of any things. Now then, and it is up to the board, up to the election board as to her governance. And we have a very good one. We've had very good ones. We always have. Mitchell County has been very good. There's been a lot of others. But in this bill, section 4.2B, it just simply says GS, which is general statutes, 163.35.1 is repealed. Does anybody know what that is? What they're repealing? It is not a sentence, it's not a paragraph, it is a chapter of the termination of your board of director, or your board, your director of the elections. There is just cause, malfeasance of office. There is a 30-day response period. There's a 15-day response period. We cannot fire Miss Jones because we don't like her. You cannot fire her because she didn't do this, that she checked your, see, you got to your campaign finance forms. She has to look at and approve it. And if she says something, you cannot fire her. She's to be independent. That whole section has been repealed. And there is no, and I've read this thing 3 times trying to find out the termination or whatnot, and it's not in here. There's nothing in it. And what worries me more than anything else is that part where she will or he or she will evidently serve at the pleasure of the county commissioners. And I say that because as you appointed your treasurer and financial and your tax collector and all that, should there become a vacancy, in the event a vacancy occurs in the office of county directors of election in any county board of elections in the state, the county board of commissioners in that county shall issue a letter of appointment. You all next year at this time might very well find yourself appointing your elections director. Total, dependent. And then if you appoint her, you can walk in there Wednesday and say, we don't need your services anymore. That's what's got us worried. We have always told her to uphold the law, which she has, do it correctly, which she has done. we have had no problems in Mitchell County elections since I don't know when, because of our good directors, our great directors. And now then that is opened up now to where the director, it's not spelled out in here, but the director now will serve at the pleasure of you all. Some of you saying, oh boy, that's fine, but that is not the way a free and fair and independent election works. And that was our concern. We sent a letter to our House Representative asking him for further clarifications and whatnot. I hope you all got that. We sent a copy. I would entertain any questions about this, but this deeply concerns the election board. And this is to go, if it is passed by the House, it is to go into law June the 1st, some of it, and then by July 1, 24, which will greatly affect. And there are a lot of things in here that are good and they're bad. So the Secretary of State is going to be running your election board rather than your independent board of elections in the state. There's a sentence in here that kind of concerns me too, that says the Secretary of State will seal the results and send it to the governor, and the governor and only the governor can speak the results of the federal elections.
In your opinion, Luther, what's the driving this change? I mean, what's the driving force behind the bill?
My opinion, and it's my opinion, this is not the board, we did not discuss what was driving it. Power. The General Assembly right now wants total control of your election process. They're undermining the county board of elections by they will make the appointments, not your local county. The way that it is done, your Republican executive committee gets into session or gets together and they say, we want Greg McKinney and Shane Biddix. They send it to the state board. The state board approves. The Democrat Party gets together with Eddie Googe, who is the chairman, and he says, we want Meredith Horman and Sam McKinney. And they send it down and it's approved.
Then the governor picks the other one.
The governor picks the other one. Again, it is upon recommendation of the sitting governor's political party in the county. And so our governor is Roy Cooper. He's a Democrat and I am a Democrat, and they asked me if I would do it. And I hemmed and hawed a little bit, but yes, then the governor appoints, and that makes it a 5-member board. And we're going now with this, you're going back to a 4-member board. And they were counties in the state that could not do anything last year, or about 2 or 3 years ago, because it was a 2-2 vote. There is no provisions in here of breaking a tie. There's a lot of unanswered questions. But you're going back to a 4-member board, which can very easily, Mitchell County has worked well together. And Lloyd is probably, I refer to Lloyd here. I don't know that there's not been anything that's come up before the Mitchell County Board of Elections has not been reconciled and ultimately approved unanimously. I'm sure there might be 1 or 2. And we've worked together.
What do you need from this board? Cut to the chase.
I
mean, you need
a pay raise for the.
You need a.
I would like to see a letter from this board sent to our representative, our House representative, asking him that he look over this bill with concerns that we have, that the concerns that I've expressed to you here, that 4-member boards don't work. We can no longer have the back of our director. We can all say she's doing a great job, and for whatever reason, somebody can come in there and say, you're out of here. And I've always operated on the adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And there has been no voter fraud. There's a lot of, this is just one bill. The other bill has a lot to do. There were two bills, a lot to do with absentee voting and a lot of things that we will deal with as per the law. But this, the reconstruction of your board of governors of the election process is what has me concerned. But I would ask you all write a letter to the House because it's in the hands of the House and tell them to look at some of these problems instead of just.
These problems out with.
Yes, we sent a letter.
Basically, if this board decided to do it, it would be to support the recommendations, your recommendation letter that you've had sent down to the Senate and the House.
Yes, well, the Senate, it's already passed the Senate. It's gonna be.
You know, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We don't need to rewrite anything. We just, you're asking for a.
Tell them you don't want to appoint the director.
Support
There,
from this law.
there needs to be some protection for your director up there. The appointments of, 4-member board, 4-member boards don't work 2 and 2. And this, but yes, we would entertain that you all, back of some of these. Any other questions?
Is all counties have 5-member boards?
All counties are equal. All counties, we have the same number of people as Mecklenburg, Wake, Orange, Clay County, Polk County. There's the governance is now that Republicans appoint 2, Democrats appoint 2, and your governor appoints the chairman.
What happens if there is I guess, what kind of term length do you serve? What happens if there's a Republican governor and?
When the Republican governor is elected, under as it is now today, the Republican governor would appoint the Republican chairman, which has been Jenkins, Roger Jenkins, and before that, Roger Horman was on there. And but that's what is, there's your political slush fund. There is the city governor appoints it, but when your last Republican governor, and we could not understand it, he appointed that the law was 2 and 2 without a chairman. There was no selection of chairman. So it's last 6 years have been tough on the election board. Any other questions?
Anything else for Luke?
I appreciate your time, but it's just that if all this goes to fruition and is passed, you will have a different driver. And it has worked well. North Carolina has never had a problem with voter fraud, anything, but there's a lot that we're gonna have to deal with. Voter signature verification, ID votes, and it's the law, we will do it. We always have them, but there's gonna be a lot of changes. And see, also one thing to keep in mind is the primaries. Your primaries will be, I might be a week off, but if I'm not mistaken, your North Carolina primary will be the first Tuesday in March. We don't care what the weather is. They don't care what the weather was. We said we can have a 20-foot snowstorm up here.
What was the last primary so late and this was so early?
It was all tied up in courts. It was supposed to be in March too, and then it went to the court system with Superior Court, and some of that is just now being addressed. The latest thing from the Supreme Court had a little, not too much, but it was tied up with voter ID and some other things, and it had to keep postponing it until it failed back again in June. But this year it is scheduled, and without court intervention, you will have your primaries in March. And we are already starting. I'm not sure exactly when, but it's this month. It didn't start today. I'll be on that. Your city elections filing period has already opened. I think it opened today, and it's Friday. There you have it, facts. Thank you all for you, and I really do appreciate, we work well together. I know other counties that they're constantly fighting, feuding with the board, but your election board is in great shape because of you all and because of the diligent work of our staff.
Thank you for your time.
Good enough. Thank you.
Let's speak to this now.
Yeah.
We call them outliers every time. This is one of the bills we will fight you. We have been very fortunate. in Mitchell County. I can honestly say I've been involved in it even longer than this. I don't think there's ever been a problem any election in Mitchell County that ever we met. Had a good board of elections, good director. It ain't that way in every county in this state, folks, nothing like it. When polls start at 1 o'clock in the morning, in certain precincts only. That's for a purpose.
Yes, I think we got, do we have a copy of this? I think we do, so
I think every Republican.
we'll review. Well, yeah, it's.
It does seem odd they would do a 4-member board, though. How do you break it down to 4-member board?
Yeah,
But I mean, I can see where other things might make sense, but the 4-member board never, even number boards never make sense.
Mitchell County has worked very well together, but there are other counties down the state when they had the 4-member board. They didn't get anything done, and they couldn't, they just, everything a lot of things are voted on that y'all don't have any idea. You walk in, you mark your ballot, you put it in the tabulator, you walk out the door. The work that our people do up there is phenomenal. And there were some counties who could not work because of 4-member. 1, 2, I'm told them to do, X, and the other 2 told them to do A.
Unfortunately, in some counties, board elections are partisan within county.
And I think it has to go back also, and I don't know whether I need to come up there or not, but it also has to go back to exactly our local people here, local executive boards nominate and put the people they think will do the best job on the board. Now then, that is being taken away. I mean, they say, you can recommend, but there's that last line that says, we do not have to take these people. We can appoint anyone we want to. And that's what disturbs me is you do not know, and it will not necessarily, and this is a worst case scenario. You don't know who you could have on your board, who those 4 members. It is not bound. It says they are to receive the recommendations, but they could appoint, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes. We got any libertarians in here? They might appoint more it will not necessarily, or they could, and I know this is a Republican county. Been here my whole life. I know how it works. They could appoint 4 liberal, excuse me, Jan, 4 liberal Democrats to run your board. Then y'all wouldn't be happy. They could appoint 4. I mean, that's just, we had some local control to make where how it would work. And with this, you're losing control of how your board is appointed and how it will work. It's coming from, you asked me what I thought was driving, it's power grab from the General Assembly of the state of North Carolina.
Well, thank you for bringing it to us and educating us some on it. I myself haven't had a chance to look through it. I need to look through it.
Yeah, well,
I'm sure you guys haven't had a chance to really go through it, so thank you for giving us a prelude.
Yeah, there's a lot more in here, but a lot of things that. Well, it will fundamentally change the election.
Got it. Well, thank you very much, Lou.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time. Let's see. Next item on the agenda tonight is 11D or 13D. Consider adoption of chemical spill ordinance.
Answer questions first before you do that.
I've got a list of everybody's questions. I was gonna shoot some answers out there and y'all can work with me to clarify if that's all right with the chair. When we did the public hearing, I was just taking down what they were saying and we didn't address it until we got to
This
this.
this is for the public comment stuff.
Yes,
Gotcha.
yes. When Vice Chair Masters was overseeing that, we would take the public comments but not respond, and then we were kind of going over the questions and. I
I
know,
mean, based on these questions, is it something we want to table? Is it, or is it?
I think that
I think
there's
we need to
stuff
answer.
that we need to answer.
Yeah, before we, yeah, I mean, yeah. It looks like there's a lot of questions on here.
yeah,
Flaggers was a big one.
right.
Well, flaggers making it apply to commercial vehicles and trains, which is not.
Yes. I did check on the trains and I think that was transportation. So I think that would include trains, if I'm not mistaken, on our chemical spill ordinance. Does
Yes,
that-
sir. Mr. Chairman, I can address a couple of those items. The ordinance addresses spills and things that occur in transportation, so that would include planes, trains, and automobiles, or whatever causes the spill would be covered. We are restricted on what we can require for vehicles due to the interstate commerce clause, because that requires federal rulings and regulations. So the issue in question on escorts and flaggers, those generally are required by the U.S. Department of Transportation. They're the ones who set those rules and regulations for what transport has to have a flagger and what has to have an escort. Now, whether those are being properly applied and followed is an enforcement issue that I believe there's some interest in following up on. But those are federal regulations that will be preempted from imposing those ourselves. However, we can certainly bring it to the applicable authority's attention if the rules are not being followed.
I think Miss Thrift, who is now first left, I live in Red Hill, just below where the two spills, and she is right, I almost never see the Unum trucks with the escort truck or flag, anything these days. You used to see them all the time. I've been here 26 years and I've seen the tremendous drop off in the escort vehicles. So that would be good to know who's responsible for enforcing federal statutes on that.
And I know there's been an interest in following up with the appropriate authorities, both at the state and federal level, on those escorts. As far as the ordinance, we can address damage to the environment and damage that occurs locally, but we can't impose the regulations on the trucks themselves as far as what they require and what they carry.
Where's the APA involved in this?
But potentially, they're essentially on the back end. They're kind of a catch-all. They'll come talk to you after you've already got a problem, rather than steps on the front end for how to address the problem.
I mean, if you have a floor spill, that's gonna be a major spill here. I don't think our fire departments can handle it.
So let me talk a little bit to that. We are working right now on a chemical spill trailer. That we can respond to the chemical spills and have some equipment on hand. That is, I think, will be funded through the mining companies. I think they're gonna help outfit and pay for that chemical spill response trailer. Now, that has some of the things to get most spills, but not all spills. The county is also contracted in with a spill response group out of Asheville that are trained to the highest certification. So while, the training to deal with, I want to say class 3, which is the worst caustic acid and spills, we get a specially trained quick response group coming in out of Asheville that typically can be there. They're on call. They're available 24/7. They can be there in 45 minutes. Our emergency management comes in, stabilizes the scene. In this event, that's when the chemical spill response trailer would be coming in. Our first responders come in, work under the direction by general statute of the emergency management director. So this response in a spill starts getting quantified from the instant that communication goes out to our communications as to, let's start quantifying this, let's start looking at it, and we're building our resources. Prior to last September, it had been nearly 10 years before where there was no incidents. And then all of a sudden, we had 3 accidents involving a chemical truck in some way, shape, or form. We had the diluted fluoride in September of last year that spilled out into the creek, and it was in a diluted state to where it was contained quickly. The water tests were done, I think as Ms. Thrift asked, and what ongoing tests have been done. I know that I'll double check with emergency management on what's going on in the long term with that. So I wrote myself a note to look at that. So yeah, just to kind of speak a little bit to that. And, you know, so we got this chemical spill trailer, response trailer that I think we're going to get funded through the mining companies. A road redesign that we're looking for some grant money and some DOT money to get that whole 197, 226 will be very wide and will accommodate semi trucks very easily. It'll have a stop sign instead of a yield sign. So it's going to be a real good setup there if we get the design that they're proposing. And then the final thing is this chemical spill ordinance. These are all things put in measures to protect the majority of the citizens or give them some type of cleanup options. So the escort trucks is in this ordinance. It requires them, but is in line with the general statutes that are required legally to be enforceable.
I will say after that last spill, Commissioner Roberts and myself met with county manager, local emergency management, district emergency management, the mining companies, Eric McCray and
DOT.
person,
Fire department.
fire department representative. But there was a lot of good conversation that come out of that. And we did kind of put it on their radar to maybe start rerouting those trucks to not come over Iron Mountain. If I remember correctly, like, tell me if I'm wrong. But they're gonna reroute those, and so I know that last gentleman did get reprimanded for not following orders, so they have. You know, I was very happy, and I felt like it was a very good, positive conversation, coming out of that meeting, so.
I live up there, it's the Mitchell County line, and Underwood and West County's got the acid tank farm there on their property, and what happens if their tank farm starts leaking that fluoride out in the springs and wells and whatever.
That would fall under
Transportation.
Right, so how would that be?
It's still chemicals, and it's in Mitchell County. I mean, what I'm focused at, I don't want to drink nothing but that.
This term that would fall under the Division of Water Quality of the Department of Environmental Quality, Water Quality section. That would be the ones who have the primary jurisdiction over that.
And they would have to self-report that as a notice of violation of the permit. So
Yeah.
that's all just be in their court to clean it up too.
Well, I constantly see the trucks going and coming. It is a farm. They store it, load it, receive it, so on and so on, ship it and receive it. But, you know, I never see an escort with big trucks, but it is a delivery product at this point. It's down to 9, 10, 11%, something like that, my understanding, but I don't know that for a fact. So, like I say, still there, still on.
In the reimbursement rates that you have in this ordinance mirror those for FEMA, because if there is a federally declared disaster area, such as something that might happen, such as that, the local ordinance will then enable the local fire departments, local responders to then access those funds based upon that local reimbursement rate that's set forth in the ordinance.
Yeah,
The other place that would come into effect is if there is someone who is negligent as a result of this and causes an accident,
Yeah.
their insurance company would then also be potentially on the hook to pay for the reimbursement of those costs. So it's a cost shifting measure to take that from a burden that the taxpayer pays to a burden that goes to the responsible parties for handling the cleanup and the abatement that goes
Yeah.
with it.
well, back when they was building this facility, I raised the question, Malin Community College just right across the county line in Avery. And they could be some gas effects coming off this acid and stuff and fluoride. And I raised the commission, what a big cloud of that gas ends up over in Malin Community College backyard, and that gas is a few dozen kids and whatnot, what's I mean, I'm looking at another picture, you know, could they die, could they have lung issues or what's gonna become of that issue? You know?
That's a different, I guess that's a different.
I mean, there's a lot to look at when you're playing with chemicals. I mean, I wouldn't want to live next to Eastman Chemical at their cane store. And so on.
Looking like basically we've addressed most every one of y'all's questions related to the chemical spill ordinance from what I've been hearing from Thor and what I've got written down, unless one of y'all feel like your question has been answered.
Commercial versus individual?
I think that goes with what Thor said about shifting the burden to the individual at fault rather than the taxpayer, because that emergency response is taxpayer money, whether it's our Mitchell medics going out there, whether it's our fire trucks. Now, in the event of just a small vehicle crash,
That's what he's talking.
that's typically not going to be having a spill effect on an environment. If I would say through communications and law enforcement, you know, you're going to have some radiator fluid, some oil, some gas. Now, if a tractor trailer with a 200-gallon diesel truck, you know, spills their diesel into a creek, then it's got an environmental impact. But if it's just a road impact, I really just don't see how we can even bill for things related to that on this. I wouldn't see how it would be really hard to build.
But the smaller items, yes, sir, I don't think it would be something that would be a billable item unless it requires a significant response that comes out of that. But also, I would point out that whoever the responsible party is for that accident, whether it's, you know, whoever the at-fault driver may be, there is insurance that would be a part of that if there is a charge. So that.
Does insurance customarily cover that kind of?
It would be a burden shifting kind of item, such as if you have a homeowner's insurance policy, many of them, if you check it out, have a fire department surcharge coverage. Be a similar sort of item as a damage to the environment that the county has had an expense to clean up.
This may strictly pertain to commercial activity.
This is not necessarily limited to commercial activity. It's limited to when the county is called upon to respond to and clean up hazardous materials spills. Is what this addresses.
Well, one of your neighbors pissed off at you and they said, oh, I see a little oil in my neighbor's car and he's like, it's over there or something. And then, you know, I'll call dark market.
I don't believe that these fine folks would be pursuing cases like that. This is
Okay.
generally dealing with street contamination and other items that come to our attention for cleaning up the environment.
Okay, so it's not a job creation.
No.
Can we amend the ordinance about having no public hearing or?
Yes, sir. I'd be confused to do so. As long as it is not a substantial rewrite, you can certainly make changes
So
to
if we want to amend it to exclude private carriers, we could do that without having another public hearing.
Yes, sir.
I think it's stated in here, you read the whole thing. this policy can be amended or changed at any point in time by county commissioners.
I feel like. Because there's some consternation there between a motor vehicle, like me driving my pickup or a car and having a wreck versus a commercial carrier. I feel like part of maybe y'all's hesitation is you're thinking about some Farmer Joe has chemicals like he was talking about being on the phone on his trailer and he has a major spill, then he should be responsible for cleaning it up. Is there any way possible to say, okay, that situation, he might not be a commercial carrier, he's responsible, but grandma out here in her car cracking or getting hit in the rear end is not gonna be on the hook for this, because it can't get to where the insurance companies, you've had to deal with when having wrecks and all that. Oh, we're not gonna pay for that. And then the county emergency management can be sending you these bills saying, hey, you better pay up now, and I can see that getting out of hand. And that's my fear over the whole thing. So if there was a way to try to make it where, and I don't know how you'd work that, but
Some sort of exclusion to.
I understand the purpose and all for the idea of it, but just individuals out there in their cars shouldn't have to end up eventually dealing with that,
I think you're reading something in that's not even there.
I don't think
Yeah.
having a gas tank with gas would
The
be.
bottom line is, we've had several accidents, we've had no recourse
Right.
to go back on any of these companies. This is a safety standard to equip our volunteer firefighters
Yeah, I
to
understand.
go out and spend time. We're not talking about a truck or a car that has a radiator leak or an oil leak
As long as it's making commercial carriers.
or a lawnmower trailer that spills some gas going down the road.
Yeah,
What we're trying to do here is offer protection for this community, hold some people accountable that screw up and this happens, who has no recourse. And the county has some teeth to enforce this.
Why not just make commercial carriers?
Because when you go, your fire departments go out there, these guys are not getting reimbursed. Their equipment's not getting reimbursed, nothing's getting reimbursed. Guys, neither is EMS, whose people run overtime.
I don't think anyone has an argument with that, just that we know the government has a tendency, no offense to you all, to run them up, but all we're saying is. that-
Man, I think you're just reading something in that's a bunch of bullshit, it's not really there, and. It's not gonna happen.
well, I mean,
We don't need, we're not gonna have, please, we're not gonna have, we're not gonna get excited here, so.
We haven't been.
That's, we're good. I think we're gonna move on from this topic. So, if we got a motion to adopt or do we want to table? I'll entertain either one.
We're good with making a motion to adopt the chemical spill ordinance.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, vote by usual sign. Motion carried. Next item on the list is the consider amendment to the subdivision ordinance.
Okay, I had some questions on that, if you want me to go through them.
Yes.
All right.
You don't mind?
Okay, thank you, Chair, Vice Chair. All right, so we're talking about that. Commission board did a lot of looking and taking, a lot of your input, put it together. Spruce Pine and Bakersfield excluded from the ordinance, wording is there. It's already in it. Okay. So we have that where you are no longer, if you're a town, the subdivision ordinance does not apply to you. Confirm that, correct?
Yes, sir. Under chapter 160D, each municipality has control over its own subdivision regulations. So Spruce Pine has authority to adopt the subdivision ordinance. Bakersfield has the same authority, and they can adopt whatever they deem fit for their citizens. So this ordinance is only effective in the non-incorporated areas, and also if either of those towns have an extraterritorial jurisdiction, those are not included in this ordinance either. That's the jurisdiction of those municipalities. So Bakersfield and Spruce Pine are not subject to this ordinance.
And if they get annexed in, then they won't be subject to it.
That's
right?
correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir. If it's annexed in, it's subject to the city and their regulations and not county land use regulations.
I think the other question I had was, this discussion about bringing up the number of lots from, I think, less than 6 to less than 11 to make it 10.
Well,
And there was-
Or anything over 10.
Yeah, anything over 10 thereabouts. So we had some discussion early on, the commission board did. And the spirit of it was, of the subdivision ordinance, was protection to what number of houses need to have a road that is of the standards of a subdivision to allow fire response vehicles in. So there was some discussion on that. And the board was kind of more concerned when you start getting up around that 10 point, that they're worried that's 10 houses that need to have a standard for a road built to a certain standard. And that was kind of the public safety aspect is what this board was kind of looking at when they discussed that. But they did give it a lot of discussion and looked at it with a lot of different lenses on that to try to save. But the spirit of the ordinance was public safety. So therefore, that was talked about a lot, but I don't think they were able to get a consensus on that.
What about 8? 6 is too low.
I think that with the 8, they talked about that too. They threw that one around and the consensus wasn't there. Let's see. Other than that, make sure I've got everything in here. Okay, surveyors and manpower, I think that was, we do have surveyors available. I know there's a waiting list right now on that, but we do have that manpower, I feel, as to the same.
Surveyors though would be, it'd be a part of the process regardless of whether or not there was a subdivision ordinance, right?
Right, I think that outside that, I think she was looking at some of her personal stuff. It might have been her some project specifics on that.
I've got a comment on that. Okay, like I said, I didn't make it over here to that last meeting. I felt like that group y'all had was stacked with people in favor of the ordinance. You had Keegan on there. If you do a survey on there, I don't think it ought to be somebody that works for county government like Keegan. It ought to be somebody like Marvin Nunley that's independent of this. Really, the only independent person you had on there, I felt like, was Jerry Hobson. And I watched that entire video and he gave more negative feedback on this subdivision ordinance than anybody. When you start getting people that they're quasi government officials. Keegan was in favor of it to begin with. Y'all got the only realtor out here in 3 counties you could find that was in favor of this subdivision ordinance was Stephanie Johnson. I talked to 15 realtors. She was the only one that was in favor of it, her and Cindy, and that's the one that was on that the panel. So,
well, I know, Kelly, we had several invited, but they just could not make it.
we all did invite my buddy here, Pete.
I did a personal phone invitation. He had a stomach bug. I invited you. I wanted you being an attorney. I said, Gary can really incite his change right here, because I had it open to the public where they could just get in. And this was not built to be, the group was built to be subject matter experts. How they weighed in really didn't matter. It was your time to ask questions to them. Whether they supported it or not, that really wasn't the question for this group. The question was, what do you think about this? The question's coming from, we had 2 people show up to the public workshop. And like I said, had Gary Peter been there, and I know you had good excuses, but you could have said, okay, here's what I want and here's why. And you would have had that on that YouTube video for folks to have heard it and run it by each person. So if you could have converted one of them that you saw that was pro subdivision ordinance, or you could have brought forth your opinion on that, which you, as being an attorney, you're very good at that.
You ain't gonna convert them.
I know, but you could have at least cornered them into the conversation and say, here's why. Y'all are very smart folks. Had you been there, that would have been a good opportunity to, incite the changes you needed.
It's a polarizing topic, apparently.
Yeah. So anyhow, I would have, I'll just say, that opportunity was there. If anybody wants to view the public workshop, and watched the entire public workshop. When I did the decisions of who, and I selected that board, I can honestly say that I really didn't care where any of them stood. I had Tommy Winchester on there. He's our building inspector, because there's a lot of inspection laws, firewalls, building code things at play. I had Keegan there. He's on the review board.
We
Keegan,
like Tommy. I mean, I like him, but he's a government.
He's a
employee.
government
He's a-
employee.
You know, it's.
no doubt, but the fact of the matter is who do you want to talk about code? Do you want somebody that don't do it, or a building inspector?
I want a builder. I want somebody that.
Well, if you got a builder, they still have to pass code. And I think good on that. I think we did a pretty good foot forward. I mean, trying to get you guys to come over. I hope you see that there was some.
I do, but my question is though, if you got a surveyor, okay, you want a surveyor on there, why are you gonna put a surveyor on there that's working for the county? Why not call Marvin Dunn, to call Jim Hughes on there? Why you gotta, what I mean, it looks rigged, I mean, it does.
It's not a matter
The
of.
questions that y'all asked Peter had nothing to do with whether he was for or against this subdivision.
Nobody's obviously for it, Lloyd, because I've talked to him half a dozen times and
Well, that didn't change his answers.
it changes his credibility.
Well, I hope y'all see, we tried our best to put forward to get you guys, we heard your voice, and there were some concessions
I
made.
want to say thank you for that.
Yeah.
You guys did, all of you as the Go Board of Commissioners heard and responded and extended the hand. And that's more than anything. And that means a lot. And it shows your professionalism and to your concern for the county. So,
Well, thank you for acknowledging that.
I just hope-
A motion to approve.
Two quick questions about this ordinance that are not entirely clear to me.
Sure.
One is there anything that binds, links, subverts your ordinance to 47F, the State Planned Community Act? Are they wholly independent?
Mr. Chairman, I can answer that, sir.
Thank you.
The North Carolina Planned Community Act is for residential subdivisions and the
I'm aware of what it is.
internal, it's the internal operation. The only thing in this ordinance that speaks to that is this ordinance does require there to be a homeowners association when the developer turns over the subdivision. So there is someone who will be in charge of the roads if they are not dedicated to a public road. That's the only place where there's overlap between.
That's helpful, thank you. Second question, I'm trying to understand this 5-year limit on past divisions. I live in a community that's 50 years old. And so most of the division was done ages ago. But there's a large tract that is being sold by the original developers that could be subdivided into I don't know how many different pieces. So would the existing people like myself who live in that community be essentially exempt from this because we're more than 5 years old?
And Mr. Chairman, I can answer that as well, sir.
Thank you.
That's all right.
That's pretty cool.
So any existing subdivision is going to be grandfathered. It's allowed. So this would not affect anything that's an existing division of land. The 5-year period in the ordinance is simply to keep someone from gaming the system by taking a small part of the land and saying, here's 5 lots, and then next month they come back and do 5 more lots, and the next month they do 5 more lots, none of which complies with the requirements of the ordinance. So that gives the staff an objective period of how far back do you look? And it was decided that looking back 5 years is enough that it would stop someone from gaming that system under the ordinance. But
If this large tract is about 120 acres were sold, would it be subject to this ordinance, even though the established part of the community would not be?
the short answer is it depends. There are a number of exceptions in this ordinance that it may not apply to that larger tract. But it would only address the future subdivision proactively of any lots that would be created.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I think I had a motion. The motion. Motion to adopt the amended subdivision ordinance, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, vote by the usual sign. Motion carries. Next item we got this evening is, the consent agenda. I have a motion, we adopt the consent agenda. Second. Second. All in favor, vote by the usual. Motion carries. Ms. Christie, what's finance officer, with anything to say?
I don't have a lot to say. Mavis left reports in your box for retirement, and just wanted to let you guys know that the auditor has been here, Miss Misty Watson. She's been actively working on our audits, and we're working hard to keep her happy and give her what she needs. So everything's going smoothly.
Excellent. Thank you. County managers report.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief. We are looking at another drug awareness day in our schools. I know Commissioner Harding had moved that forward back in the spring to try to get drug awareness into the ears of our young folks, K through 12. And what we're looking at, I've got a planning meeting tomorrow to pull together a bigger meeting, of which I'll be sending out some invites on that. So looking at that drug awareness stuff, at the end of the day, we can sit here and go back and forth on whatever political issue we have and have good standings. But our youngins are what we need to really look at, and we need to grab them and make sure they have a knowledge of stuff that can mess their life up, and whether it's bad drugs, alcohol, we want to make sure they know that those decisions they make at those young days are they have consequences. And I'm sounding like a preacher, I believe. Not a bad way to sound. Anyways, we're looking maybe at the first week of school on a Friday, and I'm going to work with getting with some key players in the community and trying to bring a ton of resources to bear to really bring this up front and center to get our kids in the know about drug awareness. So that's one thing on my radar. I wanted to tell you all that is what we're working on. And of course, we have several projects floating along. The Mitchell Middle School is on. I've been attending a lot of their meetings on that. The CMAR, the construction manager, is moving that forward. I think they're pouring concrete out here. They got the site cleaning down a little bit more. I think they're moving forward to have some precast sides coming up on that building in mid-September. So you're gonna see a building shoot out of the ground rather quickly from September to about December. It's gonna really start taking shape. It's falling on budget. It's pretty cool, y'all. A middle school built for the county, and it's not costing the taxpayers, the local taxpayers, anything. It's all state grants. So that is a very awesome thing to have. Very thing we're humble and appreciative towards as well. Law Enforcement Center, we are going out for bids on that by the end of August. We'll have bids going out to start construction on our Law Enforcement Center once we select the contractors. We hope that we can start some construction out there on that very soon. And Rec Center, I know you all approved a contract for site development. We Special Projects Manager Heiss, myself, we're looking to move that project into site development really soon. So I think that's a lot of things going on. I think we're going to have some equipment out here behind us moving. We got some builders over there at the Law Enforcement Center. Exciting times in that respect. A lot of things changing the face of the county.
Thank you, Mr. Allen.
Well, I met with Carly. She and I rode together and met Alan in Wilkesboro at the district meeting. We had a really good time, actually. Got to hear a lot of things. There are several people there from the General Assembly. Let's see. When we did the remodel here, and moved out a lot of stuff. We found lots of old, I guess, ordinances and resolutions, and they were not where they're supposed to be. They were not in the right books. So I've been really busy working on those, making sure they're in their books and indexed and where they need to go, because I found out those have to be indexed immediately from Lloyd. He let me know that very nicely. And let's see, July this month makes 2 years that I've been the clerk, which means I'm now eligible to apply to be a certified clerk. So I've been looking into that. I've got a stack of information to move forward with that. Still working on getting the old minute books all the way back from the 70s scanned into the computer for anybody to be able to look at those and search for those. And that's about it. If anybody has any questions?
Pretty busy.
Pretty busy.
Public code session, bring everybody up to speed on, what I had emails about. Yes. That's good. We also need to make John. That's fine. So, we'll need a motion to go into closed session for, personnel, and budget. That was a question. Would that be the right, would that be the right?
The personnel and attorney-client matters.
Attorney-client matters, excuse me. So moved. Second, motion seconds. All in favor? Thank you, Jack, for coming to see.
My legacy.
Yeah, we.